Assalamualaikum and a good day to everyone that is watching my presentation today. My name is Nurin Umaira BINTI FAHIZAL with my matrix number 292047, and today I will be presenting a study on Gamuda Berhad in Malaysia, its performance and its determinants. So for this presentation, I will be talking about the introduction of the company, which is Gamuda Berhad, its literature review of this presentation, the methodology, the finding and analysis, and the discussion and recommendation. Firstly, I will talk about the problem statement. Gamuda Berhad has encountered various obstacles despite experiencing significant financial achievement. One key problem is the finalization of important local projects like MRT2, causing a decrease in local income. Consequently, Gamuda has needed to depend more on its foreign projects, especially in Australia and Taiwan, to maintain its profit. Although these global endeavors have displayed substantial progress, they bring along risks and uncertainties related to geopolitical issues and varying regulations. There are three research objectives. The first one is to examine the internal or firm-specific variables that may impact the performance of Gamuda Berhad. The second one is to pinpoint the external or macroeconomic factors that could potentially affect the performance of Gamuda Berhad. And lastly, to explore both internal and external factors that may have an impact on the performance of Gamuda Berhad. There are also three research questions regarding the study. The first one is, what is the relationship between internal factors of Gamuda Berhad? The second one is, what is the relationship between external factors of Gamuda Berhad? And the last question is, what is the relationship between internal and external relationship of Gamuda Berhad? Now, I will be presenting the literature review that is related to the study. Firstly is corporate governance. Corporate governance involves applying rules and practices to ensure business operations run smoothly. It demonstrates a company's integrity and strategic direction to investors. Effective governance builds trust with investors and the public, and the board of directors ensures accountability and transparency in decision making. Next is performances. A company's effectiveness and performance are commonly assessed using matrices such as return on equity, which is ROE, and return on assets, which is also known as ROA. ROA measures how efficiently a company management utilizes its assets and resources to generate revenue, while ROE quantifies the profit generated by a company relative to the equity provided by its shareholders. Next is liquidity risk. Liquidity refers to the ability to repay debts without major financial losses. Managing liquidity risk helps company meet obligation and minimizes the chance of negative outcome. This is important because a liquidity crisis can have serious consequences for a company's operations and reputation. Next is credit risk. This risk encompasses defaults, losses from loan modification, downgrades, or delayed payments. High credit risk levels can harm financial institutions by reducing profits and capital adequacy, potentially leading to insolvency, financial crisis, and hindering economic growth. For operational risk is the potential for loss due to ineffective internal processes, people, and systems, or from external events. A lower operating ratio is preferable, as it means expenses have decreased relative to revenue. And lastly is market risk. Market risk is defined as the possibility which a person or other corporation will experience losses as a result of factors that have an impact on the overall performance of investment in the financial market. It can lead to financial crisis, economic slowdown, bank failures, liquidity shortage, and market crashes. And it is also known as a type of risk that tends to affect the whole market simultaneously. During this study, there are four ways that I retrieve the data. Firstly is sampling technique. The study focuses on construction industry in Malaysia. using Gamuda Berhad as the sample company. Data from Gamuda's Berhad annual reports between 2019 and 2023 is analysed to understand the relationship between the company's performance and various factors. The dependent variable in the study is the company's performance. The independent variable includes internal, external, and combined internal and external factors that may influence performance. The second way is statistical technique. The income statement and balance sheet data will be used to calculate financial ratios that are important for a company's performance, such as return on equity, current ratio, average collection period, gearing ratio, and operating margin. To understand the wider economic context, data on Malaysia's exchange rate, unemployment rate, inflation rate, and interest rate will be collected for the same period from official sources. All the data will be compiled into an Excel spreadsheet for analysis. Charts will be created in the Excel spreadsheets to show how Gamuda Berhad key financial ratios have changed over the 5-year period. The third way is using data analysis. The OLS method was used to assess the connection between independent variables and dependent variables. Multiple regression analysis can determine the value of the dependent variable based on the independent variables. This method is commonly used to evaluate how the independent variables affect the dependent variable in a study. The impact of the independent variables on the dependent variables can be demonstrated through regression analysis. And lastly, I use SPSS, which stands for Statistical Package for Social Sciences, which is a user-friendly software for data processing and statistical analysis. It is capable of handling complex tasks and also import data from various files formats to create maps, reports, and descriptive statistics. The software was used in this research to analyze quantitative data from annual reports and official websites, generating tables to explore the relationship between independent and dependent variables. In summary, SPSS is a valuable tool for identifying connections between different types of variables, providing researchers with a comprehensive platform for data analysis and interpretation. For finding and analysis, I will firstly talk about the descriptive statistics. For internal factors, ROE has an average of 3.89% and a standard deviation of 1.12%, showing stable profit levels. ROA has an average of 1.87% and a standard deviation of 0.57%, indicating limited profit fluctuations. The current ratio has an average of 0.6539 and a standard deviation of 0.0852. Suggesting challenges in meeting short-term obligations. The average collection period takes around 32 days to recover payments. The debt-to-income ratio has an average of 30.2300 and a standard deviation of 10.3811, showing minimal profit volatility. The operating ratio has an average of 42.26% and a standard deviation of 16.46%. Implying management efficiency. The operating margin has an average of 53.71%, indicating profit generation efficiency. For external factors, inflation rate has the average of 1.6000% with a significant standard deviation of 1.8000. Interest rate has an average borrowing cost of 2.4500%, while exchange rate has an average of 4.2956. Other than that, unemployment rate has an average of 3.9120. Corporate governance index has an average of 0.7800. And lastly, GDP has an average of 2.8720. Next is the correlation. The significance level indicate that the correlation is statistically significant. For example, the correlation between ROA and ROE is highly significant at 0.008. and the correlation between debt to income ratio and ROA is 0.001. The correlation between inflation and interest is also significant at 0.013. Strong positive correlation means that as one variable increases, the other tends to increase as well. Strong negative correlation means that as one variable increases, the other tends to decrease. Next, I will talk about model summary. For the internal factors, only three contributed to the system, which is current ratio, corporate governance index, and ROE, with the adjusted R square of 0.987. For external, only three factors contributed to the study, which is industrial production rate, FX rate, and unemployment rate, with the R square of 0.1. And for internal and external factors, only three contributed to the study, which is inflation, current ratio, and ROE, and the adjusted R square is 0.767. Next is the coefficient of the study. Firstly, for internal, ROE, CG index, and current ratio has the most significant positive influence on ROA. For external, foreign exchange rate, unemployment, and industrial production rate has no notable impact on ROA. And lastly, for internal and external factors, the determinants that influence ROA are ROE, current ratio, and inflation. Lastly, based on my research, here are a few recommendations for Gamuda Berhad. First is to prioritize the improvement of return of equity by optimizing the utilization of shareholders' equity to drive profitability and overall performance. Secondly, is to strengthen corporate governance practices as it remains crucial. Thus, it will be able to mitigate risk and enhance operational effectiveness. And lastly, to manage inflation impacts on financial matrices. The development of strategies to mitigate inflationary pressures and the modification of pricing structures can aid in mitigating adverse impacts on ROA.